Welcome back, folks. I'm Jake ELLENBOGEN. Today we're going to be talking about the linebacker room. I feel like it's very overdue since Ernest Jones was traded. Before we dive into it, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Also, be sure to follow me on all social media at JKBogan, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. It's all going to be JKBogan. And before we dive into that, just want to let you guys know that you could also check this out on all audio podcasts. The link is in the description. It's also going to be Jake ELLENBOGEN Live, so you can search that on all your podcast platforms and pick this up over on audio. And, of course, if you want to further support the channel, you could also become a member and get access to all sorts of exclusive perks and what have you. So, yeah, you can hit the join button or hit the link in the description below. But that's going to get that done. So, okay, let's talk about the linebackers. So, Sean McVay said to expect Reader and Rozeboom as the two starters to start the year, okay? I am going to give my thoughts, pros, cons on players, and really give my thoughts on where I think they're going to go, the direction I think they should go, and what, all that other stuff. So let's talk about Troy Reader, who is at the top of this depth chart, I think. I mean, it's either him or Rozeboom, but doesn't really matter. He has a lot of rumors going on about him being the green dot. I don't know if I necessarily believe that. But Troy Reader is somebody, first off, on this channel, Alexis and I interviewed on Downtown Rams, so we know him pretty well, and, he's been around for a while. I mean, 2019 UDFA, he's still around. He's going to be 30 soon. So, credit to him. He's had a good career. He went from Penn State, transferred to Delaware, and was a UDFA, and he's, worked his tail off to get to this point. Little surprised that he made this 53-man roster. Not really because, he didn't play in preseason, but I'm surprised, it came out of nowhere. He went to the Chargers, and I thought the Reader era was over in LA, and then he comes over, again, and you can tell Sean McVay and company really like him. So I don't think it's really a shock that they really like him. A smart, heady player, solid tackler, knows the defense, has been around, the organization quite a bit. He displayed serious blitzing potential back a few years ago against Washington. I believe he had 3 sacks in that game. He and Aaron Donald just absolutely tormented Alex Smith in that game. So, I think Troy Reader has some things that you like, but, the run support, he's solid. It's really the thing that he struggles mightily with, the thing that's going to get people on his back is his ability in coverage, which is just not very good. He does struggle in coverage. He's also just, to be fair to him, he's not athletically gifted like some other linebackers. So it's not as simple as just going out there and doing your job. Sometimes these guys are just way too athletic for you to do your job. And, obviously that's why a lot of college players end up flaring out in the NFL, because they're just simply not fast enough, athletic enough to handle their assignments, and that's totally normal. But Troy Reader, credit to him, has carved out a role in the NFL on a 53-man roster that is very much in contention to go to the playoffs this year. And I think that's impressive. Now, if we're being honest here, I think Troy Reader, his ability in coverage is a huge red flag. I like Reader. I've always liked Reader. I've defended Reader. He's good at what he's good at. He's bad at what he's bad at. And what I mean by that is he's not going to change. He is what he is at age 29. He'll get a little bit better at certain things that he's already good at, but I don't think he's going to get much better at things he's bad at. So he's decent at a lot of things. I don't think he's necessarily great at anything, but the solid tackler thing is definitely fair to say, and he's very intelligent. Now, the coverage thing is a big issue, though, and it does give me some pause going into that Lions game. But moving on to Christian Rozeboom, this is another UDFA out of South Dakota State that's worked his tail off to get to this point. You got to give him a lot of props there. A high motor player. He is a struggling tackler. If you think Reader struggles as a tackler, which I don't think he does, maybe he takes, not as great angles as you would like, but he's not a bad tackler. I'd go as far as to say Christian Rozeboom is getting close to being a bad tackler, because more often than not, he takes poor angles. He does struggle to finish. He's a struggling tackler. Has plenty of missed tackles in his career. His first year as a legitimate, you could call him starter, played over 500 snaps. he had tons of missed tackles. I mean, that's the problem there, is that, you're dealing with a guy that, has a hard time making tackles. And that is something that I noticed right away watching the preseason, watching, Chris Shula's defense, albeit it wasn't the starters. They tackled, okay? Textbook. There was a level of ownership. There was a level of physicality. And it's not to say Rozeboom isn't physical. He's absolutely physical, but he needs to finish those collisions. He has blitzing potential. He's had some pressures in the past, so he has the athleticism to do it. He's flashed in coverage. I think the thing with Rozeboom, though, and this is the biggest thing for him, is consistency. I think he's shown impressive flashes where you look at him and you're like, that guy could start in the NFL. And then the next play or the next game or whatever, he doesn't look that way. So I think really it's been consistency with him. They've seen him a lot in camp, so obviously to make this decision, my assumption is that Troy Reeder has gotten better and Christian Rozeboom's gotten a lot better. So we'll see what ends up happening, but that's kind of the assumption there based on the way they've reacted. Now we move on to Jake Hummel, another UDFA, and I'll tell you right now, Jake Hummel, he's a sound tackler. He's really good in run support, playing in the box. He has potential to work as a blitzer. He's a good athlete. The cover skills, okay? His ability in coverage is really impressive. One of the best coverage linebackers that we saw in preseason. I think he's clearly the best coverage backer on this team. I don't know why he's not getting more talk at potentially being a starter. I kind of feel like he's better than both Reeder and Rozeboom. I know he hasn't gotten that opportunity, but I think he just adds so much to the table. I think they have a gem in Hummel. I really believe that. He just hasn't been utilized, but the athleticism gives him a decently high ceiling. I really think he should probably start week 1 because he's got everything that you look for. And if you're going to just move on from Ernest Jones like that, yeah, give Jake Hummel an opportunity. Obviously, Rozeboom and Reeder will have to play as well, but I really like Hummel, and I think that Omar Spates, who we're going to talk about in a sec here, while he had a really, really good preseason, obviously was, I'd say, the best defensive player in preseason, and I think PFF would agree. That may be true, but Jake Hummel still existed, and he still had a really good preseason, despite a lot of the attention on Omar Spates. So it's okay to give the guy credit, absolutely, but don't forget about the other guy who was doing just as well alongside him, number 35. So Omar Spates, the big name, everybody is excited to hear about, talk about all of that. He's got a small sample size in the NFL. He only played 2 games in preseason, but he's the best defensive player according to PFF in preseason. Okay, so that's a big deal. His run support is rock solid. He's a textbook tackler, and he's got a high motor, very high motor. And when I say textbook tackler, I mean this is a guy that's going to wrap up. He's going to have collision. He's going to have that contact. He's going to initiate the explosiveness into, the pop rather behind his pads. But then this is a guy that's going to finish the tackle, whether it's a solo or a gang. And again, the high motor is evident on film. Does a really nice job moving sideline to sideline. So now with him, I think he displays the blitzing ability. In that first game, we really saw it against the Cowboys. I think he can get better in coverage, but the baseline is pretty solid altogether for Omar Spates. So I think this guy's just really good in almost every area. I think they absolutely got a steal, and I think he and Hummel I would start over Rozeboom and Reeder personally, but we'll get to that. Eli Neal surprisingly made the roster. I thought he had a decent preseason, but I was surprised to see him make the roster. I like him, though. Special teams contributor day 1 in all likelihood, if he is active on game days. Another high motor player, but the tackling was a concern, and that really stood out like a sore thumb because, a lot of the defense in preseason, it was a lot of form tackling, not a lot of missed tackles. He missed 4 in preseason. His coverage ability, he definitely teased the ability to do that, and he didn't blitz at all. He's never really had much blitzing experience. So I think this guy is somebody that they kept on the roster, placeholder there. I think they really like him. but they see him more as a special teamer. If anybody gets hurt, obviously he'll get promoted. But I could see him also being, waived and put on the practice squad. He feels like a guy that probably could have made it through waivers and been on the practice squad, but all the power to him. And I like the idea of keeping UDFAs, so I'm not against it at all. But I think you're going to mainly see him as a special teams contributor moving forward, and maybe he can carve his way into, this rotation. So I know Sean McVay said that Reader and Rozeboom are going to be the guys that they look to first, but I would expect this to be a committee effort. I don't think this is just Rozeboom and Reader the entire time. I wouldn't be surprised if we see something similar to when Baker Mayfield in 2022 didn't start the game, and then eventually he came in and took over as the starter, like not long after. I think it was John Wolford that started the game, and then Baker took over for Wolford, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken. It feels like it was forever. I just remember Baker didn't start the game. I believe it was Wolford, and then Wolford was taken out at some point early on, and Baker took over. I could see something like that where, it's Sunday Night Football, so you're going to see, the typical intro. Guys tell you where they're from and all that. So you'll see you'll see Reader, you'll see Rozeboom in the graphic, but then I think not long after that, you're going to see Spates, you're going to see Hummel, they're going to rotate. And I think a lot of these four guys, they're going to get a lot of snaps between the four of them. So we'll see what ends up happening. But I will say this, while I expect a committee, I do also eventually see the cream rising to the top. I think when it's all said and done, I must almost always call him Mo Spates because the basketball player. But when it's all said and done, Omar Spates and Jake Hummel, in my opinion, will be the two starting linebackers for the Rams. That's how I see it. They could go a different route. They could use a little bit more in the safety room and, use some of them as linebackers and what have you. But I think this is what they're going to do. I think they're going to take 4 out of the 5 linebackers, give them a chance to rotate. And I think eventually Spates and Hummel will win those jobs. But we'll see what ends up happening. I'm very curious to see what you guys think about the linebacker room. I think I know, because I know a lot of you guys, bag on Reader, which I kind of get, but it's a little unfair. But yeah, we'll see what ends up happening, and I'll be looking at your comments, and yeah, it should be interesting. It's definitely a different position than it was with Ernest Jones. It doesn't feel as stable. It's almost like this embracing of, I guess, just pure chaos, but almost like an excitement combined with the chaos. I don't really know how to what to make of it, but we'll see what ends up happening. I think Spates and Hummel are going to be kind of unsung heroes, and be those guys that maybe people don't see coming, and and that's how I see it. But we'll see what ends up happening. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment if you haven't already. Be sure to follow me on all social media at JKBogan, including Instagram and Twitter and TikTok and all those. And if you like what you heard and you want to support it further, you can drop a super chat, or super thanks, I think it's called. Or you can actually sign up and join the channel and become a member and get access to exclusive perks. That's going to do it for me. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care, folks. Later. Do you love talking about the Rams, the NFL, or just want to be a part of a community? Join my free Discord server today. We're over 800 members. We got 24/7 live chat, a level 3 boosted server, the ability to call into JE Live, playing online games with us on Kick streams, toggleable alerts for when I go live on YouTube or Kick so you don't miss a live stream, and exclusive giveaways. Click the link in the description, the comments section, or the link that comes up in the video to learn more and join today.